James Pratt. Welcome to Mogul Live. We've got a terrific guest we're going to be speaking with today, Tom Julian, head of JUL-TV network. Now, we have had a little bit of technical difficulty with just getting Tom on board, so we're going to see if we can just get him to come into the chat as soon as possible. And in the meantime, I think this is a great time. Keegan, good to see you in the chat. Good to see Tristan. There's three others that have joined, Aline as well. Just as we're waiting for Tom Julian, and Tom has joined. So we're going to connect Tom when he jumps here. Tom, I'm going to jump in the... Great to see you. Tom, it's great
Hey,
to
how
have
you
you
doing?
on.
Finally, we made it.
We did this. We connected, which is a great thing.
Fantastic.
So it's a very casual chat. Again, Mogul Live, we've got people that'll be just basically listening to your key advice, but also an opportunity to ask questions. But again, let me know if you can't hear me or...
I hear you fine.
Okay, great. Well, my first question is today, what's on your agenda?
Well, right now we are developing a new home shopping club. And there's a lot of companies, products, services that are getting hurt pretty bad during this virus lockdown. And so we're creating, I think we've already got about 18 products. We just started a few weeks ago that we'll be selling online to our viewers. We're on, Apple, Sony, Google Play, Roku, Android, Amazon, and quite a few more. So we've been working on that, working with the owners of the companies, discussing their products, discussing their services, and setting up a day to film.
Oh, fantastic. Just for the people that have joined in as well, I didn't really get a chance to talk a little bit about your background, but can you give, Kevin, great to see you on the chat. Can you just give our viewers just a little bit of a snapshot of your career?
Yeah, I was in the entertainment industry in the 80s. Was fortunate to experience what Michael King was doing with Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and he was just beginning with Oprah, the syndication. Then somehow I ended up in about 18 years in product packaging with a lot of large retailers. And in 2011, I started the vision of a network. 2015, got it going a little bit. 2017, got some traction. And right now we're in 28% of the market on TV, and then we're in about 70 million households. We're not being watched by 70 million people, but we have the ability to impact and reach a large people through these multimedia platforms. We're family friendly. We're family friendly. So our model is based on PAX TV, PAX. And he was family friendly. My understanding is he owned some radio stations. An advertiser couldn't pay the bill, but they had 112 avocado green can openers for him to sell to cover the cost. And he gave it to the DJ. He sold them in about an hour, and that became the foundation of what was called the Home Shopping Club, and then the Home Shopping Network. And then he went into family friendly, Christian, conservative type programming in PAX, and I believe NBC paid somewhere between 300 and 400 million for it in the 90s. But that's our business model. We really don't want to create revenue by embarrassing people or flipping them off or whatever. We really want to just provide talk, comedy, drama, travel, wine, food, all sorts of things in our network.
And just with the post, obviously, we're starting to look like we're coming out of the coronavirus situation. How is that affecting what you're doing at the moment at your business?
Well, it's affecting us that we just can't get together. But we've been able to work through email, text. Some of the times it's been through Zoom, and it's affected everybody. It's affected everybody, and people hold on to their money and things like that. So it's real, but we feel that we're able to still create. The creative vibe doesn't stop. In fact, sometimes people have been told that we've been told that they have notebooks by their end table in their bed because even in the middle of the night they awake with some vision or some creative thought. So the good thing is about creativity is it's not hampered by anything outside of your inability to think and create within yourself. So, we're moving forward, but I'm very excited about it.
Can you talk a little bit about the goals then with JUL-TV Network? Kevin's made a really good point on the chat about how you're welcome to certainly promote it on our community page. But for you, JUL-TV Network, I mean, what are your goals and what is the driving factor behind it?
Well, my goal is I still believe people watch, and based on the reports, people are still watching 4 to 6 hours of television. Of course, now it's more than that, but on the average, 4 to 6 hours of TV per day. TVs are still being sold. So I'm into syndication. I really believe in mid-sized markets, i.e., Phoenix, Las Vegas, Dallas, Kansas City. That those size markets are still very viable. And so we want to. We're not into pay-per-view or subscription. We're into revenue based on advertising.
Right, right. And just with that net, or basically that business model that you've got, what do you think is the best genre right now for television? Hi, Angela. Good to see you.
What do you mean the shocker? What do you mean?
The best genre as far as
Oh,
reality
okay.
TV, comedy, drama. What do you feel is the best way forward at the moment?
I think travel, believe it or not, even though no one's able to travel, we've got two shows that, we in January, we went to Madrid, Northern Africa, Indonesia, Bali, Vietnam, and we've got two great shows. One's called Me, Myself, and the World, which is a soul traveler, a woman who goes out on her own, hosted by Pamela Holt. And we have another one called, which is really, I think, pretty cool. It's not about the destination, but it's about the layover. And so if he's flying to Jerusalem, he stops off in Brussels, and he's got a 7-hour layover. So we take a camera with him into the plazas, into the cafes, into the bars, and he has a blast on the layover. So it's really about the layover. In Europe and that, you can still get out and get an Uber or whatever. In America, it's pretty tough to leave the airport and come back. But we found so far that he's able to just get out and go and goes and has a drink, a meal, and walks around the plaza. And Pamela's fantastic. She just travels around and just shows other women that, hey, there are places you can go and enjoy yourself as a solo traveler.
Do you find that the travel genre or that travel style of television is that saturated at the moment? Do you think it's underutilized? How do you find it?
Well, James, it's really about content. I mean, there are probably a lot of travel shows. Some hosts have made it very interesting. There was a show in California called California Gold, which was hosted by a guy named Hugh Hauser, and it was very simple. One camera, you went around and watched people make ice cream or whatever, and it worked. I mean, he did very well in that. I think it's really about the personality and the content. That's I think the Discovery Channel chairman once said, you can do all sorts of things with a camera, but really it gets down to the content and the personality. So, we can all millions watch a squirrel being chased by a cat on YouTube, but really, are we really going to, good entertainment will be with somebody who can really go out and enjoy something and bring you into that moment. And that's what we've been blessed with.
Yeah, well, I mean, you answered that beautifully because both Andrew and Kevin have both commented on what you said, which is, I'll go back to Andrew's point, and he mentioned that, do you feel that YouTube influencers who do, again, travel vlogs, are they competitors for TV network shows?
I don't think so. Again, it's how that's being pushed right now on social media, how it's being driven. We just, last week, we found ourselves being able to align with Apple TV and some others. So, we've got to build up our social media. I'll admit that. But we're taking those steps to do that. But no, in fact, we're not big on the YouTube because, again, we want to go into the stations. And these networks that we've been talking to about a certain show, they've asked us to take down the shows from YouTube. Because, you can have a promo on there and a sizzle. And if I'm not mistaken, I think even some of the networks might do that. They may have their trailers, they may have their pilots or whatever it may be. But if you want to watch something, you're going to have to probably pay $8 or $9 or whatever it may be to do that. So YouTube is a great source of things. But for our network, it's really about the TV set and it's about the TV stations, which is a little bit harder to journey through, if you will, and manipulate, what's the word, navigate. into
Yep.
that. But we are getting, it's taken a long time, but we are getting traction with network executives. We are getting traction with some entertainment personnel, some Emmy Award winners, some that. So, and we're telling them, hey, our studio's not big. And they said, you know what, but you're making it happen. So, there's battles, but we just keep plowing on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kevin's asked a really good question that follows on from what you were saying. And I'd love to get your take on what do you think the streaming services are doing right and what they're doing wrong at the moment?
Well, number one, it's a saturated market. So I don't know if people really, on TV you can channel surf and you can watch the guide and you may say something that may catch your ear. Uh, there's all these platforms. So how do you know which platform to go to watch something that you're going to enjoy? So I don't know if the platforms really promote their shows. So it's really up to us to really promote it, tell them where to go, and again, develop some type of engagement. It's kind of like sales. People will buy off emotion, and they want to be at a certain place buying that product, or they might like a salesperson who has been sharing their product. They're connecting with them. So it's all about engagement, and unless you have that, it probably will not go very far.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got some great guys on the team that have won some Emmys, and I think they'd agree with everything you're saying, Tom. I know your time's precious, so I've got two more questions for you.
Okay.
The first one is someone that's wanting to put together a TV show right now. What would be your best advice how to get it off the ground?
Outline. There's a word called treatment in the industry, i.e., I'm going to what is the show about? It's about nothing. However, what is it really about? What is that? So I'm sure Mr. Seinfeld and them, they really got to an outline, and what are we going to do in this show? So you really have to map it out. You can spend 2 to 3 years in Toluca Lake, California, Burbank, having coffee and creating ideas, but unless you got some type of organization and structure, which us creative people, we can be a little weak in that, to be honest with you. But you got to surround yourself with some people that can help you in that. But you got to structure it financially. But also, you really just can't say, "I've got a great idea and I think it'll work." Okay, what is that idea? So uh, when I first started, I came up with a show about country music in Las. Okay, came up.
Oh,
Are we
no,
done?
sorry, Tom, you're great. I'm just
I came up
waving at
with a
one of the guests.
show, called Las Vegas Goes Country, and I called a very savvy director. I won't mention the name, but very Oscars, Tony, all that stuff. I called him at his house, and he said, "Who is this?" I mean, he was cussing at me like, "Hey, I'm Tom Julian from Orange County. I'd like to talk to you about an idea." What? He was like mad. So the conversation went for about 5 minutes to where he was literally cussing because he didn't like the fact that I called him. And I said, you know what? I want to do a variety show. And the only opportunity I've had, I sat with Irving Fine, manager for George Burns. I sat with him for about 15 minutes talking about variety. And it really struck me. And he said, "Hey, I just had lunch with Irving. Meet me over at Arts Deli on Sunset." So it's amazing what can happen in the conversation. But you just got to be able to stand your ground and say, okay, hey, I just want to make it happen. So he said it was a great idea. And so he introduced me to some people who can help me. So, you just really got to be ready to take a lot of no's and
Yeah.
just be focused.
I got to ask you, have you spoken to him since then?
Who?
The relationship between
No, I didn't. I've learned in this industry, my former partner, he passed away, but he helped run a organization called Rogers and Cowan, which was a large public relations firm in the 60s and 70s. He worked directly with Warren Cowan, putting together the Bobby Riggs, Billie Jean King match, a lot of rock and rollers, things like that. And he taught me, I'd be in his office and David Geffen would call him. And I'm like, "David Geffen just called you?" And he goes, "I haven't talked to him for 5 years, Tom, but you learn in this industry, they know that if I call them, I have a purpose in that call." So
correct.
So there's a real respect that develops in that to where you don't want to bother the people, but you've got to respect the time. But I'm sure if I had an idea or something, I think he would take the call now. But there's no reason for me to move forward because he helped me at Arch Deli.
I think that's fantastic, Tom, because you really hit a really good point, which is especially in Hollywood, people's time is very valuable.
Yes,
So you make the most of it. If you're going to actually reach out to someone who can make something happen, you better have something
that's
so
right.
that
I
they'll
mean,
pick up the phone.
he was in discussions with Barry Diller when Bill Diller was putting together Fox, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And again, he said, Tom, again, he knows that when I call, I haven't talked to him in X months or whatever. He knows that I have something to talk about, and so that's a great place to be.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Tom. And I can see, I mean, the feedback from everyone who's watching this live, they're really liking what you're saying. So my last question to you before you have to go is, you've been in the industry a long time. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes. What would be your best piece of advice, not for someone putting a show together, but someone to have longevity in the industry?
I think the consistency of product. You just really have to stick your ground. I.e., if you're a science fiction fan, that's what your passion is. The thing is about your passion. You know, I sang in clubs in college, and I've actually had a song I've heard on the radio that I wrote. And a manager in Beverly Hills said, "Hey, I like you. Well, come into the office, and I want to talk about managing you." And I was young, and he said, "What do you want to do? Do you want to be a songwriter? Do you want to be a studio musician? Do you want to perform in concert? All these questions." And I was young, and I just said, I'd like to meet a lot of chicks and make some money. I mean, that's what I said. And so, you know what he said to me? "See you later. Come back when you know what you want to do." And I thought that was pretty powerful message to me. Get specific with your goals and your passion, because you can sit down and have a great idea about a nice sitcom, have lunch with some people, and all of a sudden they're talking about a family of four going to Mars, and you're excited about it, and all of a sudden you've left your vision and your passion, and because you're
Exactly.
trying to survive and get the money going. And I get that, so it happens.
And I think that links up with what you said before as well. Just very briefly, you talked about how you've got to stand your ground and you've got to believe in obviously what you're selling or what your product is. I mean, if you're going to a meeting and then you're getting, blown in the other direction,
Yeah.
it's almost like you're not actually basically following it through. So, so Tom, where can we find you and the Jewel
Yeah,
TV network?
JUL-TV network.com.
J
JUL-TV network.com, or JUL-TV network@gmail.com.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, we'll put something in the Mogul community as well for our members, so they can get obviously a reference to your page as well. But Tom, it's been a real pleasure
Thank
to
you
have a
very
chat with
much.
you today, and look forward to seeing more success from you and having you back on the Mogul Live.
I really appreciate it. Thanks, James.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, bye.
Bye.